nobody ever did great things from playing it too safe.
Mm.
When adversity came, I could have fell apart, but I chose instead to follow my heart. When adversity comes, I will never run, I will adjust, adapt, and overcome. Vision.
Woo! Welcome back to your one-stop shop for everything empowerment. I am your host, Tariq Williams, and not only I am Vision of Hope, and we are Vision of Hope. And if you're looking for empowerment, no need to look any further. Here we are. And so we have a great podcast episode for the people today. We have a great individual who we're interviewing. We have the owner of Rivertown Taps in Phoenixville, Arizona, Mr. Louis Leiterman. Louis, thank you for joining us today.
All good. Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, though.
What did I said Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, Phoenix, Arizona. That's funny though, because when I was opening up and telling people from where we were from, where I was opening a restaurant up, and I said Phoenixville, for some reason everyone was like, Arizona. I was like, no, in Pennsylvania. I'm down a little south, not all the way over there. But no, so it's funny. It's like kind of like a natural thing. Everybody knows Phoenix, Arizona so well.
Right.
Yeah.
Phoenixville. And I do know Phoenixville well. I don't know what I'm doing, but hey, we're keeping it real. We're keeping it authentic here on the pod. But thank you so much for joining us. And I think your journey, Louis, is so neat, so interesting. And I think a lot of people can learn a lot from it, from how you got started to now owning your own restaurant and being an entrepreneur. But before we get into all that and the details and everything like that, describe your journey in one word. Language is really important to what we do here for empowerment. Not only walking the walk, not only talking the talk, walking the walk, all that good stuff. But what is one word that describes how you got to where you are now?
So, I was thinking about this a lot today, and the word that I've landed on, I think might turn some heads initially, but I want to explain. But my word is help. And it's not necessarily meaning, to go out and ask for, handouts and what have you, but knowing that on your journey where you're trying to get to where you're going, understand that you can't do it by yourself and be as successful as what you're going to try to be. You need people to help you, and it's not necessarily helping, financially. It can be helping with collaboration, or helping emotionally, or helping as a support system. It could be being a cheerleader for that person, or finding out how to invest in different people, not necessarily from a monetary standpoint, but from filling that emotional tank, or helping someone recharge their batteries and stuff like that. So I think one thing, if you asked me a year ago the same question, I'd have a completely different answer. But I think my perspective on this whole journey has changed I think it will change continually as I go through it. But yeah, I think help and being okay with help is probably where I'd go with that.
A lot of people, I feel like, miss that important piece that you're talking about, because everyone talks about, I did all this on my own and I did all these different things and it was so hard, and
Yeah. Everybody wants to be self-made, right?
Right, exactly. And don't get me wrong, there's a piece to that, right? Without the work that you put in, you're not probably going to get to where you're at, but you definitely have to make some network connections and learn from others and be humble through that journey. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and you can still be self-made with having people to lean on. I had a really good mentor in my career that the quote sticks with me to this day is, we're in the people business and we happen to sell food. So that kind of reiterates the point behind that is you need people. I can't open the restaurant without every single person that helps me turn the light on.
Yeah.
So you can't do it all by yourself.
Yeah, no doubt. I like that a lot. So help, and thinking about how you still self-made, but making that work, but individuals being there to people who you can lean on. I think that's fantastic. And so I think we're going to dive a bit more into that in a bit as you learn more about your journey and how you got to being the owner of Rivertown Taps. But let's go back. And how did you even get in the food and beverage industry to begin with? How did it all start?
That's a funny story because I think you know when I was you know in like my younger teen years, you know, 13, 14, if somebody, you know, I had every 13, 14-year-old's dream. I was playing football and I was like, you know, I'm gonna go to the NFL. I'm gonna be the guy. And like, you know, that's your dream when, you know, and then um I kind of you know, family times, you know, strung a little hard and at 14, you know, I very quickly had to say, all right, well, you know, bills have to get paid and I got to figure out how to help my family so that, you know, we can survive.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wound up working in a small bakery that was right outside of our high school, the one that was right next to the ice cream shop. And I started working there as a dishwasher just because I needed to, and I knew somebody that knew the owner's daughter. And you know, I walked in one day and said, you know, I'll wash dishes, I'll do whatever. So you know, I started working there for 6.50 an hour, just working as many hours as
Making
they
that
would give
money,
me.
650 an hour, balling.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then you know, it's funny because like I look at like what I pay dishwashers now, and I'm like, and I think obviously you know the pay increases had to come, but it's laughable like when I think about you know the pay rate that I was okay starting at
Mhm.
back then. But so yeah, I just kind of I hated it, to be honest. I hated washing dishes.
Who,
No, I
who,
didn't hate the
who
job in
loves
general.
washing
I
dishes though, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. But and it's funny because I found myself washing dishes like last Saturday. We had no dishwasher, so you know, being a business owner, you wherever the leak is, you fill the hole.
Right.
So so, you know, it's still, you know, and it keeps you humble and whatnot. But yeah. So I what did interest me though was I saw the you know, the baker and the cake decorator and everything they were doing, and I was kind of like, you know, I like that, like that's interesting to like show me how to do this thing. And you know, wound up, you know, sneaking over there a little too often, dishes pile up. So, you know, the owner was like, all right, like you can go and play around when you finish your actual job. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah, yeah.
knock that out. Faster you get that done, then you can go and hang out and play around. And, you know, I think I'll forever be thankful for those moments because, you know, it kind of naturally led me down a path that I found an interest in. And, you know, it was very different from where I would have ever seen myself. I had no interest in cooking prior to that,
Hmm.
in any regard. But I think that was when I found out that I had like a creative approach to things, and that kind of sparked my interest. And, you know, since then, you know, I say I never looked back, but, you know, this industry is hard. So many times, you know, you look to pivot, but you know, you come back and it's almost like you're it's an addiction almost, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And so then, how did you start building your skills? Was there a trade school involved or anything like that?
So I wound up going to like the local tech school after high school,
Okay.
which, you know, I don't know if like, you know, I had the option to go you know, during the day like at some point, you know, when we were in high school. But
Hmm.
I don't know, to be honest, I don't even know why I never did it. I think I was just, you know, at that point gung ho on like the actual industry experience, which paid off dividends later on. Um, but yeah, so I just kind of I worked there and different things through high school, and then you know after graduated, I um, just went and delved into working for different chefs in different kitchens
Hmm.
that I thought would teach me something. And, you know, seeking out chefs that were doing different techniques that I'd want to learn and what have you. But after I graduated, I went and got a baking pastry certificate because that was what that course it was supposed to be. I was supposed to go for the whole thing and get like a certificate in culinary arts and baking pastry, but
Hmm.
I wound up, you know, I'm paying for it out of pocket, ran out of money, and finished one piece of it. And then I said, you know what, I got advice from another chef I was working for too, and he said, everybody that's coming out of culinary school, working in the different stations and whatnot, like you're already going to be able to run circles around that because you have industry experience and you know how to produce and you know the soft skills and hard skills that it takes to do this job already. So why don't you get paid to learn those things instead of paying somebody to do that? And he says his advice was, don't be stagnant. Don't ever be complacent with and think that your journey's over. But if you find the right people to teach you these things, you'll end up getting paid for that education instead of taking out a loan for, it costs the same amount of money to go to the CIA and the Culinary Institute of America and Johnson and Wales as it does per semester to go to medical school.
Right.
So like, and the other that's a whole nother conversation for a different day. That's a broken industry. Because most people can't pay that back out of culinary school. And he's kind of set me straight with that. And, from that point, I said, okay, I'm going to take that advice. And I would work at 3 different restaurants at the same time, a million hours a week. But I was just, as a sponge. And I just tried to learn as much as I could.
So I wanna
going through that journey.
I want to make sure I understand and make sure this is clear for everyone, because you said you got a certificate, but then a lot of individuals go to culinary school to do what you're doing, and so what you're saying is you ended up not going to doing a full program.
No, I kind of started like a baseline thing, like an entry level program, really, that wasn't necessarily like culinary school.
Wow.
But and it's funny because I got into Johnson and Wales, and which is one of the top culinary schools. I applied for it, and I never went. I never went through with it.
That's so interesting, because I feel like in so many different industries and even in school, we're told that there's only one way to be successful. That's go into school, go to college, get a job, right? And it's neat to hear a bit more about your path, because it wasn't the conventional route. You found what worked for you. Do you feel like you learned what anybody else would have learned in that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think that journey with going to school works for some people. And I think it's more of a direction of what works for you, and it wasn't for me.
100%.
And I think that from, to talk, my broad opinion on that stuff is, I think that a lot of people base their value and knowledge, and they to feel like they're educated, they feel like they need to go to get a formal education, and that's not the truth anymore. I very much believe in mentorship, and doing your own research, and it's you can teach yourself a lot if you're dedicated to learn that way, or if that's how you're privy to learn, because not everybody is, and that's okay. And those that go that route, that find success in that avenue, then that's fantastic. But I think that it's not necessarily the route that you need to go to feel valued and that you're educated, and think that that's the only way to get from point A to point B.
Right.
Because I think even in high school, you're told like you have to go to college, you have to do this, you have to get an education, you have to do all these things. And I just never thought that was the only route. I never thought that closed-minded, to think that I needed to go there to feel that I was educated.
Right. Absolutely. And real quick, for those listening who are like, well, Tariq and Lewis said, I don't got to go to college, mom, so I'm not going. That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying. But the fact is, you got to learn about you and figure out what it means for you moving forward in whatever it is you want to do. And just for example, a common phrase that's been coming across, my life in I did a few speeches about it, is meeting people where they're at, right? Everyone talks about meeting people where they're at, but yet they only do it halfway. Like, what does it actually mean to have a conversation and connect with that individual and have them get the information that they need in a way that they can be successful. I can't stress this enough that what we're talking about and anything that anyone listening is going through, it's not one size fits all. And even though you might be struggling in one way or another, does not mean the goal you're looking for is not for you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think another thing just to piggyback onto that is understanding that you're on your own timeline. You're not on somebody else's timeline that you need to compare to,
So,
right? So like
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't um, base your journey of success on comparing yourself that's the same age or at the same role in a career. You know, you're on your own journey and be thankful for the small steps of success that you experience along that road. You know, like I have peers that make, you know, $300,000 a year that, you know, are it's one of my best friends, you know, and I'm happy for him and I'm grateful that he's doing that, but I'm not going to base my success financially
Mm,
um that we're the same age and that's the point that he's at. You know, and that's just one example, but you know, just understand that you're on your own journey. You're going to go as fast or slow through that as you're comfortable going, and you need to be okay with that.
love that. Love that. The person you're competing with every day is yourself. Are you going to be better than you were
Exactly.
yesterday or not? Plain and simple.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to go through a dark rabbit hole if you wake up every day and you're comparing yourself to that point and you're not there yet. You're never going to feel empowered to do the small things and those small steps forward that are going to get you there. So
Right.
you got to celebrate all of those small wins. You can't just look at it on a pigeonhole point of view like that.
And so, professionally, I know that you've managed different restaurants and you were doing different things and stuff like that in the kitchen, dishes, all that. But then at one point, you took a little bit of a step back and took more of a like a non-managerial role after you'd been in some management roles to begin with. But then you ended up on the show Guys Grocery Games all of a sudden, and I know that your manager was talking to you and you were like, we got to have you managing our department. um, Tell me about what it was like to be on Guys Grocery Games and be on TV and what you learned from that situation.
Yeah. So I'll answer two things and I'll say one thing really quick before that is
Sure.
like yes, I did take a step back because I understood mentally this point that I was at.
Mm,
I was not going down a road that was suiting me well from how I was managing my own time and how I was feeling in the industry at that point. So yeah, I kind of left the industry for a short period of time, as almost every single person in this industry does. You
mm.
know, if you interviewed every single person that's been in the industry for at least, you know, 3 4 years, everybody kind of dips their foot out and then they're right back in. It's just like this like cycle, I guess. But
Right. But before you go on that, I just want to mention that people always say, oh, like I'm taking 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, and give it a negative connotation. But sometimes you got to take a few steps back, right? In order to
yeah,
continue moving forward. So, yeah, let's hear
yeah,
about that.
yeah. A great quote from a book that I just finished was you have to slow down to speed up,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
you can apply that in a million different ways. But and I've used it on many different conversations that I've had in the past couple months. But the kind of that same aspect of slowing down to speed up. But yeah, so I took I pivoted and you know wanted to just reset myself and figure things out for a little bit and you know I think everybody should be okay with doing that if you need to but yeah, as I tried to get out of it for a little bit, I had actually just my episode of Guys Grocery Games on Food Network had just gone live, and it was kind of like, wait, you can do what? Why are you not in our kitchen? Why? Like, and I was like, okay, you know, I don't want the job, and you know, through I think I was transparent with him. I said, I just stopped doing this. I need some time to reset. And, he wasn't having it. He had a leaky wheel, or, a leak, a squeaky wheel, and he
Yeah.
needed to get it oiled.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
um, he was like, no, you're going to do it. And I was like, I don't want to do it. So we went, back and forth for a little bit, um, wound up somehow roping myself into it. And,
Mhm.
it was one of the best career moves I ever took. Um, because
What was the position?
So I was the kitchen manager at the ShopRite at Bethlehem,
Hmm.
which at the time, that company, ShopRite's cooperative, so they have different members and owners of their stores. And what that member was pushing was like scratch kitchens in his stores, and we were doing a lot of really cool stuff. So I wound up I felt like it was a good like transitional fit at the end of it, and I wound up learning a lot about the business aspect of it that I did not know.
Hmm.
And I think they found out that I did not know necessarily, because it's very different to be a chef in a restaurant, and be a chef at a corporation. There's a lot more business aspects that I did not go to school and learn. So like those programs that where you go to culinary school, you learn certain aspects of it that so to me would have been beneficial there. However, again, I wound up in that road of getting paid to learn those things rather than paying to learn them,
Hmm.
because that company, God bless them, they were patient with my road to learn those things, and they invested in me heavily. And I'm very thankful for that, because they gave me a lot of the tools that I use to run my business today, from a culture standpoint and from a business management standpoint. And I wound up being there for the longest I ever held any job, because it was a good culture and company. So I learned a lot about culture
Yeah.
through them, and um, I was learning so much from a business aspect that I was like, okay, I can't leave until I was at the point where I felt like I could leave, because I learned all this stuff. Now I want to go apply it in my own way. Right.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's really important to even take a step and think about the fact that you're the manager, right? You're the manager. You're in charge of the kitchen and all that. But yet you're like, I have to stay here to learn more, even though you're the manager. So tell me a little bit about how was that humbling for you? The fact that you didn't know some of the things you felt like you needed to know, and how did you put your pride aside and say, hey, I got to be here because I need to learn this to be better, a better version of myself in the future.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was definitely humbling. And it kind of opened my eyes to say, because like, at that point, I'd been on Guys Grocery Games. I was in leadership roles in kitchens, very young. That was when I was 21 years old. So, and I had already held multiple leadership and managerial positions within kitchens. So, at that point, I thought I knew more than I did.
Yeah.
So that was kind of eye opening, because my view of the industry was just, product, right? Product and cooking and recipes and the chemistry behind cooking and those things. So I did a deep delve into those things and I learned them very well. But then it was eye opening when I worked for a company that said, "Hey, this is great, but it's not making any money."
Mm,
And that's never sustainable,
mm,
right? So um, having to kind of swallow that pill and then learn and sit in meetings and you're looking at profit and loss statements and you're like, okay, I don't know what any of this means, and I don't know how these numbers affect each other, and I don't know how to translate my operation to affect those numbers. So learning how to make those two marry together, you know I was lucky that I was young enough to be humbled to the point where I could say, okay, I don't know these things and I need to learn these things. And also I was lucky to be in an atmosphere with that was and culture that was okay with teaching me them.
Yeah.
Because you're not always going to get that. So it was very humbling to see, okay, well, it's kind of like, you're not as great as you thought you were.
Yeah.
And then, that lesson has taught me to keep that thought in the back of my head anytime I'm going through any step in life.
Right.
And I've had to apply that to my business also.
As a mindset coach myself, even though I give advice and I help people work through their adversity and their obstacles and everything like that, I can't be at a place where I'm not learning myself either, right? The moment that we all think that we've learned it all and we just feel like that's it, is the immediate moment where we start declining, right? We start declining and we start not being the person that we were supposed to be. So I think it's very important that you mentioned that piece, and I'm thankful that you mentioned that ability to continue growing in that role.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for people that listen to this from a managerial standpoint, from an ownership standpoint, entrepreneurial standpoint, or that you're just starting on any kind of journey that you're going to eventually have interaction, whether it be customer facing or your team that you have, um, make sure that you do your best. You're not going to be perfect at it, but do your best to create an atmosphere where people feel that they are contributing and teaching you, and make sure they know that, like, make sure that they feel value, that
Right.
they're teaching you something too, as much as you're teaching them. They're every day there's different things, even if it's one of our cooks showing me a better way to clean off our grill,
Yeah.
because that's happened. Like, there's little things that people can teach you to better you and your business and your knowledge and everything. So just be okay with making sure, and never think that anyone's opinion is beneath you, or any of those little things.
Lewis, you set the tone right from the very beginning, and I think you're really putting those pieces together here. Like the other day, even though you're the owner of the restaurant, you out here washing dishes. You know what I mean? Like that's huge. That if anything, that's just one of the biggest displays of leadership that I've ever heard. And I think that's important for people to listen to, understand, and realize that we're not above anyone in leadership. The fact is, we're all working together. And I think that's super important. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of my mindset, because that's not the first time it happened, and I've
Yeah.
done it in positions that I've held before.
Right.
You know, I was the director of food and beverage for Kalahari, and we're doing tens and tens and tens of $1 million a year, and I'm overseeing that. But we have a dishwasher called out, or a restaurant's in the weeds and they need help getting caught up, and I
I'm
jump
here.
back, take the tie off, I'll hop on the hotline, I'll do whatever.
That's
I
what's
had people
up.
giving me weird looks because I'd jump on the grill station, I wouldn't even put an apron on. I'd walk, I'd have to then go change my shirt because I got grease all over it. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but also like making sure that people know, like, the way I look at my shirt getting greasy is less important to me than what you need right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh,
So
love that.
always making sure putting people first.
Yes.
But and to pivot back on what I was, my original point in that sentence was, I'm not gonna help any of my team get better and stronger by, because it could have, I very easily had three other cooks there. I could have said, okay, you're washing dishes tonight and
Right.
I'm cooking on the line, because that's less of a grunt task, more or less.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm not helping that person get developed, or hone in their skills better if, but anybody can wash dishes,
Yeah.
but not to downgrade the job,
Right.
but because it's very hard. But you know,
But that's
making sure
so.
that you
Go
don't
ahead. Go
pawn
ahead.
things off on them. You
Yeah.
can't pawn those tasks. When something comes up, you can't just say, okay, well, I'm at the top tier, so I'm above that task, and your team's going to respect you better, and they're going to become better. Like, I'm working on getting that kitchen to operate with me not as a line cook every night. So that's also adding value to them in their development and learning how to lead that line and handle those things without me there as a safety net.
Right,
Right. So
right.
it also it pays off on multiple ends.
You know, you use the word help, and I mean I'm a big fan of the word empowerment, because what I tell people when I'm working with them and everything like that, you I want you to be at a place where you can do some of these things without me, right? We're talking about sustainable growth here when we work together. And so I really like the piece that you mentioned when you talked about, well, I'm going to go ahead and wash dishes so that my other cooks and everything like that can continue to develop their skills and continue to move forward. I don't want to take away from their opportunity. So, in my opinion, like, I know that help was the word that you used earlier, and I don't want to disregard that at all, because I think that's really important. However, I feel like that is true empowerment right there. Like, I want to see you all develop as an individual and as a team. So, in moving forward, when we're talking about Rivertown Taps now and your restaurant, when you think about staff to your customers, what is the culture like when your staff and when your customers walk in? What is the atmosphere you want everyone to have? What do you want people to know about your restaurant?
What I want them to know is that we are a family. Um, and I know like certain, human resource professionals either do like that term or they don't like that term.
Yeah.
Because the one example I got from somebody was if grandma comes in drunk, you're not firing grandma because she's family. But if Kevin comes in drunk, Kevin's out the door. So, I understand that to a degree, but I also think that you can draw lines in the sand with family also. But so I want people to know that our team is valued. I want people to know more that our team is valued and that we want to add value to them and the community more than it's more about that than it is about the food and the service. Because when you have a business, you now, especially with social medias, you have a platform and you have a voice. You have a larger voice and a larger platform than most people get the opportunity to have. So, I want people to know that, we are we're about people. We sell food and we put a lot of emphasis on all of that. But that runs in line and parallel to it being an outlet for our team to learn and grow. So it's still I find myself, the more I talk about it, and the more people ask me questions about the food and everything, I continue to pivot more to talk about, well, we do this so that so-and-so can do this, or somebody wanted to learn this, so we do that. So it's what I want people to know is that it's about the people. And I hope that everybody can apply that in their own way, in their own life too. Whether you have a business or don't have a business, it's not just about that. But I want people to know that it's about people.
Yeah, no doubt. I like that. The person first, right? Making sure that it's a quality experience. However, Lewis, I'm hungry. All right, man. I'm hungry. I'm looking for some food. What type of food can I expect from Rivertown Taps? What do we got going on? What's up? What's up?
So what I like to describe our food as is it's simple, ingredient driven local food. And it's not to say that when I say the word simple, it's not we're doing easy stuff. It's simple in the term, it's clean, it's not overcomplicated. It's just meant to taste good, right? Like there's no pretentiousness behind it, or we try to make sure there isn't. But yeah, it's local, ingredient driven, community based food. At the bottom of our menu, like, we list all of our local farms and partners that we buy from, because it also promotes them. But we want people to know, like, we're supporting our community.
Yeah.
We're not supporting the big factory farms and what have you. But we want to be a part of the community locally. and add value. And I'll stick back to the food because, like I said, I keep every time I talk about it, I keep always going back to the people. But our food is something that's just inspired bar food. Really, it's something that's approachable for somebody of any budget, any day that wants to try new things. And we actually, and as we grow, and as any business should grow, you kind of learn what your customers want you to sell them, right? You don't tell them what they're going to buy. So we actually just did on our most recent menu adjustment, because our menu changes seasonally. So we looked at it and said, okay, well, we're putting these interesting things on the menu and no one's ordering them anymore. Like, what happened? Where did we lose that customer base? And we said, okay, well, maybe people are scared to try quail for the first time when it's a $32 entree, but they'll try it when it's $18 and split it across the table. So that everybody can like dabble in. And so the culture of our food is more so introduction to new things, that have been around in the industry forever and, might exist and be common in Manhattan or Los Angeles, but aren't necessarily prevalent or at an approachable price point where the everyday person can go into a restaurant and try quail or head on black tiger prawns or king oyster mushrooms, like those things, or fresh truffles. We're getting fresh black summer truffles in this week. So our goal is to do something that's interesting at a price point that anybody can come and get it.
That's awesome. That is so cool. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, man, I got to get over to this restaurant. Unfortunately, though, I am in Arizona, like I said earlier, and the restaurant is not in Phoenix, Arizona. It is in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. What's the address to the restaurant?
Our address is 226 Bridge Street, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. We're right in Chester County. We're, I think, now part of the mainline Philly area. So we're just north of Philly, so, a short drive from that whole area, right by Westchester and, Bryn Mawr, Delco and Montgomery counties. So we're a short drive, where you can have a really interesting experience, because we've got interesting food, that's approachable price points, and everything's 100% from scratch. And then we've also got, an interesting experience in the restaurant where we have this massive self-pour tap wall where you can, again, get samples of different things and try a lot of different things in a one-stop shop kind of thing. So you can, it's almost like sensory overload. You can try so many different things each time you come. So it's a unique experience, and we're happy to be a part of the community so far.
Rivertown Taps, your one-stop shop for everything food and beverage. We are Vision of Hope, your one-stop shop for everything empowerment, So
absolutely.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And you said, I don't want to just overlook this. Everything's from scratch from your kitchen, and you're making sure that the community knows all the different farms and everything like that, where you're getting your local ingredients. That's amazing. That's amazing. Because, you so easily could not do those little things, right? But I think it really speaks to the fact that you all truly do put the customer first.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a lot easier for me to buy bread in from somebody or tortillas or any of that. Like, absolutely. I would take hours off my week. But it's not who we are.
And I like that. It's not who you guys are. And I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty sure, Louis, every time I reach out to you, talk to you, man, you're working. You're always working. And so
all the time.
I appreciate the effort that you're putting in and working on it, continue to like help empower yourself in your journey as well as those around you. And to speak on that, not only are you all doing all those different things for customer first and community and everything like that, but you are also giving back in terms of charity and giving service to the community. Can you talk a bit about the donations you all have been delivering?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we mentioned culture a lot so far in the podcast, and one thing that's been a very fortunate alignment is, me and my business partners, my family and in-laws, and my fiance, we all have very similar values in being a part of the community and giving back. And just to pivot with all of this, like, because a lot of times because I'm in the operation, I have the face of everything that's going on, but like there's so much effort and work that goes in, from everybody, from my fiance to my future father-in-law, Gary, and future mother-in-law, Sharon, who do so much work to make all of these wheels turn. Um, but I was fortunate.
Shout out to the family. Shout out to the family.
Yeah. So, it's, we, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so giving back to the community. So when we were talking about this, one of the things we said we wanted to do was make sure that we give back to the community, and our goal is to give back as much to the community as we take away. Not that we're devaluing the community, and we're not a nonprofit, but we want to improve the community and do things to help it. So we do a lot of different fundraising, and we donate every single day to mental health foundations, with different cocktails, with not different with a Negroni cocktail that's dedicated to Anthony Bourdain, and mental health nonprofits that we donate to, so that people have more accessible resources for those things, because that's a big thing in the world right now, is mental health and well-being. So we give back every day for that, and we want everybody, we as a family feel that everybody should be empowered and feel that they are okay to be their own self, from a mental standpoint, and from just who you are as a person, right? So one partnership that we did, that was our largest donation that we did so far, which we had incredible partners, for the Chester County LGBT Equality Alliance. Bridge Street holds Pride Fest every year. So we sponsored our tap wall, where we donated 15% of everything we poured for the weekend, and then some cash donations and raffles and whatnot. But we really kind of went all out with trying to raise as much money for them as we could, and we wound up donating just under $2,000 in just 3 days.
Wow.
Because Pride Fest was one day, but we said, we like to go big, and we like to keep things going. So, and we're all about, as weird as it sounds from a business perspective, we're all about giving money out.
Yeah.
So, because we want, like I said, it's generally who we are. We want to add value. So we did a 3-day fundraiser and sponsorship, and we donated a lot of money for them, and we're going to continue to do that, and we're already thinking of how we can make it even bigger and better for the following years, as we continue to be a part of the community and they continue to grow. But yeah, literally anytime, I gotta be careful saying this, because somebody too close, they're gonna ask for too much, but anytime someone approaches us for a donation, the answer is always yes, whether it's a $10 gift card that we can afford to give you, or for your own fundraiser or what have you, or it's a benefit dinner. We did a benefit dinner for the Trellis for Tomorrow Community Gardens that we donated $500 for from one night. So anything that we can do, it's always going to be a yes. And if we can't necessarily do it monetarily, we'll figure out a way to support somebody in other avenues, whether it's helping with our platform or anything like that.
It's all about that help and empowerment you talked about at the very beginning. That's what's up, Lewis. That's so neat. That is so neat. And so, in order, it's just so interesting, because I know the individuals, when they have a business, it's all about growing their business, building their business, about the products and everything like that. But once again, you always continue, no matter any question I ask, you continue to come back to the person first, the people, giving back to the community. And ultimately, I think that truly is, I think, important for any business, to make sure that we are looking out for each other, I think that's so important, and I love that that's one of the pillars you seem to hang your hat on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of it stems from there's been many times in my life where I've been in the position where I needed community support or help. And sometimes I got it, sometimes I really wish I had it and I didn't have it. So it kind of drives home the fact of like, that there's always that little beating mind, like, or guy on the shoulder that says like, you would need this or you would want this. And, you kind of try and listen to that voice as much as you can. Because, and you want to be authentic with it and you want to be genuine too. Because I work for companies that are very, ingenuine and, they're doing it for the PR and they're doing it for all those, a write-off or whatever. And you can kind of see through those things.
Yeah.
But I would hope that like anybody that listens to this kind of takes it away and finds local businesses in their area, whether it's Arizona, anywhere in the world, across the country. Find those businesses that are doing things to add value to the community and support them. Because the people that are doing it authentically and it's really part of their values, they're not going to look at the monetary benefits that they get from increased volume or anything like that. They're going to reinvest those things and double down to give more back. And the more you support your own community, the more it's going to grow and thrive, and it's going to become a better place for everybody to live and be together. So I would really ask anybody that's listening to this, if you can take away one thing, support your community and support the people around you.
Love it. I gotta ask before we head out here. Did you ever have any moments where you thought that you weren't going to be successful in the industry? Any moments where you just thought that this wasn't going to be for you?
Absolutely.
So how did you handle that? How did you battle that?
I leaned on the people around me to help. Again, because even as we're going through this, like when we were opening, so like, you go through the confidence of I've got a great idea and this is going to blow the socks off everybody. And you ride that high for a little bit. And then you look at a feasibility study and how much it's going to cost. And you're like, okay, this is a big risk. And, how do I do this? How do I accomplish this? And, what if it doesn't happen? Am I going to be ruined? And am I going to so you kind of like start to get to a voice where sometimes you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do this. It's too big of a risk. Or, what if I fail? And all these people are riding on me. Because, I provide livelihoods for people with their checks, that's how they pay their bills and get their groceries, right? And keep their lights on. So it's a lot of pressure. And it's, you're gonna hit through from anybody that's looking to start their own venture, and bring people on or spend their own money. You're going to go through a roller coaster of emotions where you feel that high of like, this is never going to fail. And then you feel that low of, okay, if this does fail, everything's going to crash. And what am I going to do? And that's okay. I want to start by saying, like, make sure everybody knows, like, it's okay to feel those emotions. And it doesn't mean that you should feel overwhelmed and self-doubt, but voice those things, and surround yourself with positive people that want to empower you. And you're going to have people in your life that are looking out for your best interest, right? And they'll say, okay, well, you shouldn't do that. It's too big of a risk for you. And I don't want to see that happen to you. And, that's genuine. And I understand that, but, nobody ever did great things from playing it too safe. So surround yourself with people that have the same ideas, morals, and visions as you, and talk to those people, because those people are also going to relate to those thoughts that you're having. And they're going to know, okay, when I was in that moment and point, I really needed somebody to tell me that I can do it and I can keep going. And it's not necessarily doing it to a fault where, it is a bad idea and saying, okay, well, you should dump all your money into this thing. But sometimes it's giving people empowerment and direction,
Yes.
and and giving them a direction to say, okay, well, maybe if this piece of this is causing you doubt, maybe pivot to this, and finding people that have that same aligned mind thought, or mindset to get you there. But you have to be okay with telling people that you're feeling these things, right? Like that you feel down and you need empowerment. That's what keeps you on the track to push forward.
Vision.
Yeah,
Exactly.
vision. Yeah,
Exactly. I always talk about this, right? And one of the big things about my logo is that it's the word vision in Braille, right? Just because other people don't always see your vision doesn't mean that you don't see your vision. And the fact is, you will have people around you, though, that you need to talk to, that you got to lean on sometimes. And you spoke about that. So I couldn't
yeah.
agree more.
And just to like, I remember listening to one of your podcasts. I forget exactly which episode it was, but when you talked about what that braille writing was and what it meant, and then I think it might have been on the one that you did with the Kembe
Yeah.
potentially. I forget, but
Yeah.
like
That's
I
the one.
when I heard you say that, I was like mind blown. I was like, oh my god, like that has so much meaning packed into something. Not that it's small, but it's just this little thing that means so much more. So I thought that was brilliant. I just want to make sure you knew that.
I appreciate that, and listening to you talk, it's those little things that make us realize that we have no limits, right? That we say the sky's the limit and what have you, but there's truly no limits. Actually, let me be a little bit annoying here for a second. I have a joke for you. I have a food joke. All right, are you ready?
All right.
What do you call a bagel that can fly? A plain bagel.
Wow. That is so simple. But like those funny, those like dad joke, those like small, that's funny.
you know and I thought about it too, because like those simple things that you're talking about, right, that help us move forward and grow, and sky's the limit, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, Lewis, it's amazing what you're doing for the community, and there's truly no limit to where Rivertown Taps can be and where they can go. And so before we go, one word that you believe that describes the future of Rivertown Taps.
Um, let's see. I think one word to describe our future is I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna steal your thing. I'm gonna say empowerment, because now that you've connected that stuff for me, I think the only way, you look how to tie things together, and I think the easy way to tie things together is we want to grow, right? So we want to grow and have different locations or different concepts as a company. How do we do that? We empower our people to get us there, and those things. From a simpler perspective, yes, obviously we want to grow, but I think the more important word would be empowering our people to be able to get us there,
Love
because
it.
we're not going to get there on our own, right? And I'm going to challenge, now that you said plain bagel and we're talking about nonprofits and giving back to the community, I'm going to challenge somebody that's listening to this to create a bagel shop called Plain Bagel. That's going to, sky's the limit. We're growing, and we're giving back. I want somebody to do that.
All right. That sounds solid. I love it. That's awesome, man. Oh, gosh. Well, I used to live in Westchester, Pennsylvania. It would have been great to come out to your restaurant. I definitely will get out there next time I'm over on the Northeast. But you said growing. So how about growing from Phoenixville, Pennsylvania to Phoenix, Arizona? That's not too far away.
Yeah, no, we can basically throw a stone over there.
There you go.
No, listen, yeah, absolutely. Like we want to grow, and we want to grow because we want to have a platform to create a good, sustainable work environment for people. So, we're gonna grow. Maybe Phoenix, maybe somewhere a little closer sooner, but maybe we'll get there one day.
Yeah.
We want to build an empire. So So maybe one day we'll make the travel a little easier for you.
All right, that sounds good. And for you, Lewis, and for anyone watching, for whatever it is you want to do, you can make it happen, and you will make it happen. Lewis, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. People are going to get a lot out of this. And once again, thank you for everyone for listening. Not only I am Vision of Hope, but we are Vision of Hope. Have a good one, everybody.
When adversity came, I could have fell apart, but I chose instead to follow my heart. When adversity comes, I will never run, I will adjust, adapt, and overcome. Vision.